everybody. Today we'll be talking about the price, one of the P's, the four P's. Price is quite important, and personally, I think it's very complicated issues because it's not that simple for any companies to just come up with the right price. Because price is not just a number on the price tags. It associates with a lot of things. Okay, when you talk about price, you don't typically think about just the numbers on the price tags. Price can be other things too. Depends on who you're doing business with, right? So it could be the exchange of the things of value. It could be like if you're exchanging one good with another good, then price can be a good or services. Or if you ask somebody to do you a favor, then in return you have to do him or her a favor in the future, right? And that favor can be the price of your current favor that you ask that person to do. So keep in mind that price is not just currency. It's not just money. It can be other things as well. And when we talk about price, a few things that you need to know or understand is that consumers associate price with a lot of things. For example, when they see a high price tags, they think of the products as something, valuable, something that will last for a very long time, upscale products, something with, brand name products, things like that. And also, when they look at the low price tags or something, very cheap, they will associate that numbers with the, low quality, or like kind of lower scale, lower class kind of products, right? So in order to come up with the right price is quite complicated, and you need to do your homework quite well to come up with the right price. Look at this slide. You see that this is something that you see all the time, right? When you go shopping, a lot of consumers, they actually do some quick calculation in their head to figure out how much do they have to pay for the product. Some consumers, though, they're not like that. It could be that they're not very good at math, or whatever reasons. So sometimes when they look at these different discount campaigns, and then they'll decide, okay, which one is better than others. So based on these three scenarios, you all can do a quick calculation, right, to figure out what would be the final price that you have to pay for the products. Like for example, the first one, 50% off of 2,000 is simple, right? It's $1,000. The second one, 25% off, then another 25% off the reduced price. In this case, you have to do two calculations, right? The first one is to take 25% off out of 2,000, and then you need to take another 25% off of the reduced price, after the 25% off the first time. Then the last one, 20% off, then another 20% off, then another 20% off. This one you even have to do that, three calculations. So it's a little bit more, complicated. Right? But a lot of your consumers, when they see something like this, they often just add, those numbers up. Like, for the second option, the 25 plus 25 is 50. Right? So they may think that, okay, it's the same as the first deal, even though it's not. And when they look at the third option, the 20 plus 20 plus 20 is 60. Oh, so it must be cheaper than the first two options, which may or may not be true. So you have to be able to calculate to figure out what would be the final price that you have to pay for the products. Okay, same thing as this example as well. All right, now let's talk about the elements of the price planning. If you want to plan to think of what would be the appropriate price for your products, there are several factors that you need to think about: the objective, the demand, the cost, the pricing environment, the pricing strategy, and the pricing tactics. So let's start with the first one first, the objectives. These are the common objectives that you see when it comes to setting up the price. Right? If you want to increase sales or market share, if you want to increase the profit, you want to compete with your competitors, you want to increase the satisfaction, or you want to increase or enhance your image. Right? You set the price according to some of these objectives that you would like to accomplish. Now the second one, the demand. Right? For those of you who have taken econ class, you already know what demand and supply is, right? So demand is basically the desire for a product. So if the demand is very high, a lot of people want your product, right? So you may be able to charge them premium because a lot of people want it. But if nobody wants your product, then it's going to be difficult for you to try to sell the product at the premium price, right? You may have to give them some discount. So it depends on that. Still with the demand, you see this is the one on the left is a common the demand curve, right? When the price decrease, the demand increases. Okay, that's most products will work that way. Certain products though will work a little bit differently, just like the one on the right hand side, the prestige products. Think of something very expensive like let's say Louis Vuitton purses, or Gucci shoes, things like that. Those products tend to be very expensive, right? And those brands, they don't usually give you any discounts at all because they're selling you premium products at the premium price. So if one day you go to the mall and you see the Louis Vuitton purse that you typically spend about like a couple $1,000s or more, suddenly you see that 70% off, right? Some people may just go after it right away, but a lot of people who know the brand or who know what the appropriate price of the product would be, may have to think twice and think of why this bag is so, or this purse is so cheap, because usually you have to pay a couple $1,000s, but now it's just a few hundred, right? So you may feel okay, well maybe something wrong with this product, maybe it's the knockoff, things like that. So when the product like that becomes very very cheap, the demand decreases because people don't want that product anymore. A lot of people want to buy Louis Vuitton purses because of this status that comes with the product, right? When you use expensive purses, people look at you different or treat you differently than when you carry, I don't know, a plastic bag, this kind of thing. Okay. Another thing that's also still related to demand is the price elasticity of demand and price inelasticity of demand. The first one, price elasticity of demand, means that when the price changes, the demand for that product changes more than the price change. For example, the products like milk or eggs, right? When you go to the grocery store, there are 4, 5, 6 different brands of milk. But milk is milk. So it doesn't really matter which brand, right? You still get the same milk. But let's say usually you pay about $2, $2.50 a gallon for milk. Suddenly one day, one brand decides to drop the price down to $2, right, instead of $2.50. Even though it's not a whole lot of price change, but most people would just go after that $2 gallon of milk, because why would you want to pay 50 cents more for the exact same product, right? Compared to the one on the right hand side, inelastic demand curve. Certain products like very fancy cars, Maserati, things like that, it costs you like $100 or more $1,000, right, for a car. If you can afford to buy that fancy expensive car, if they increase the price by $20,000, 20%, the change in demand is not going to be as big as that 20% change in price. When you can afford to spend $100,000 for a car, $120,000 dollars car or price is not going to make you change your mind. When you want that car, then if you have to pay 20,000 more, so what? Right, so in this case, it doesn't change the demand a whole lot when you change in price. And then it's another kind of elasticity as well. We call this a cross elasticity of demand. This is when the price of one product changes. It affects the demand of another product that happen to be a substitute product. So for example, people drink coffee or tea, right? Those two are pretty much substitutable because they're doing either coffee or tea because they want the caffeine, from those drinks. Let's say, if the price of the coffee increases from like, $1.50 a cup to like $5, right? People will be just like, oh wow, that's very expensive. Why would I want to pay $5 for a coffee? I might as well, switch and get, tea instead. So in this case, when the price of coffee increases, the demand for coffee decreases, right? But at the same time, the demand for tea becomes much larger because people substitute coffee with tea. Okay, so we call this the cross elasticity of the demand. All right. Next thing you need to think about when you set up the price tag would be the cost of production or cost of the product. In the end, when you sell something, you want to make profit, right? In order to make profit, you need to know how much it costs you to produce that product. And in order to produce anything, there's some costs involved, and these costs consists of two things: variable costs and fixed costs. Okay, fixed cost is the cost that happen for the production that doesn't vary with the number of units are produced. Doesn't really matter how many units of production that you produce. Fixed cost is still the same. So, for example, you are manufacturing chairs, right? So you need to buy a machine in order to produce chairs, right? So let's say that machine is $1 million. Doesn't really matter how many chairs that you produce, you still have to buy that machine anyway. So it's gonna cost you $1 million if you produce just only one chair versus if you produce 10,000 chairs. So we call it fixed cost. Variable costs, on the other hand, rely on vary based on how many units of final production that you produce. So use the same example. If you want to produce a chair, right, made out of wood, so each chair you have to buy wood, right? So if you are gonna produce one chair, you buy one piece of wood to produce that chair. It's cost you, let's say, $2. If you want to produce 100 chairs, then you buy 100 pieces of wood, right? So it's cost you $200, right? It's $2 per wood. So in this case, it varies. It changes based on how many final products that you produce. Okay, and let's look at this profit equation here. It's very simple, right? If you want to make profit, you want to make sure that revenue is higher or more than the total cost. And total revenue comes from the unit price times quantity sold. The total cost comes from the fixed cost plus the variable cost. And variable cost comes from the unit variable cost times the quantity of the product that you produce and sold. Okay, so you can do quick calculation, solve the algebra to figure out what would be the unit price or what would be the profits based on given information. All right, make sure that you know how to do the calculation. If you do not, feel free to stop by my office. We can talk about that. I can show you how to do it, or maybe we can even talk briefly in class as well. Right. The next concept having to do with the cost, we call this the break-even analysis. Right? Break-even analysis is when you try to figure out what would be the amount of production or units that you have to produce in order to break even. And by break even, I mean the revenue equal the total cost. Because you're not making any profit, but you're not losing any money either. And the formula for the break even point, the quantity of the break even point is that fixed cost divided by unit price minus unit variable cost. Right? Now move on to the next factor. Um, Pricing environment is also very important too for you to set up the right price. The economy at the time, the competition with your competitors, the government regulations, right, the consumer trends, international environment. All of these are the factors that could interfere the numbers on the price tags that you would like to create. Now let's talk strategy of the pricing. We have this skimming pricing, penetration pricing, and prestige pricing strategies. The first one, skimming pricing, is when you come in higher than your competitors. It means that you charge for your products more expensive than your competitors. And the reasons behind that, why you do that is that people associate higher price with higher quality, right? So when you charge your customers more than your competitors, your customers may think that your products are better than your competitors. That's why you charge them more. Penetration pricing strategy, on the other hand, is when you come in lower than your competitor. In this case, it could be because you're brand new to the market, people don't really know about you, so you want them to try your product, right? If you sell your product cheaper, people may want to try your product because it's cheap. If they don't like it, they will just throw it away, and then they will just go back to the previous brand that they are used to. But at least you try to give them some compensation, some kind of encouragement to try your product. And then we have this prestige pricing. Prestige pricing is when you charge premium for your product because again, people associate higher price with the higher quality or prestigious quality of the products, right? You don't usually give your customers any discounts because you want to keep that premium price high. When people buy these kind of products, then they expect to pay a lot of money. Something like Rolex. Right? You're not gonna see any stores that sell Rolex at $500. Usually you have to spend $4,000-$5,000 for Rolex, right? Because it's a prestige pricing. Then we have the odd even pricing. Those $199, $299, $399, and things like that. Then we have the target pricing strategy. This is pretty much when you do your homework ahead of time, asking your customers like, hey, if I want to sell this product, how much are you willing to pay for this product? And then you sell the product based on the information that you get. Then we have the bundle pricing, right? When you try to encourage consumers to buy several things at the same time by sometimes giving them some minor discount if you buy 2 or 3 things at the same time. And then we have this yield management pricing, which is being used a lot in the hotel industries and also the airline industries. Right? When they try to fill all of the seats on the plane and also fill all of the rooms in the hotel. Right? So the sooner you buy, the cheaper you get because it's a yield management pricing. Then we have customary pricing. Certain way to sell the products. People have this or accustomed to paying this much money for the product. For example, the vending machines, right? You don't expect to pay $10, $15, $20 when you buy things from the vending machines, right? You expect to pay $1, $1.50, things like that. So if you want to sell your products through the vending machines, whatever products in there should be priced at about $1, $1.50, $2. Because otherwise people would just like, why would I want to buy this product so expensive at the vending machine? And then we have this everyday low price. You have heard of this before, from Walmart, right? They have this everyday low price strategy, which basically means that they tend to sell the product cheaper than competitors because they have a very good supply chain management, so they could keep the cost of the product very low. They have very good relationship with their suppliers, and they buy products in bulk, so they get these bulk discounts. Now move on to the next thing that also has something to do with the price. Is the quantity. We have a few kinds of quantity I would like you to understand or know about. The quantity discounts, there are two kinds, non-cumulative and cumulative. For the non-cumulative quantity discount, this one we are talking about if you buy the product in bulk, like 10, 15, 100,000 units at a time, then you get discount. That's what we call the non-cumulative. The second one is cumulative quantity discount. This is the kind of discount that you want to encourage consumers to come back over and over again. For example, if you buy the product 5 times, then the sixth time is free or half off. Or those loyalty program that you collect points or miles. And then we have these seasonal discounts. These tend to be products that are very seasonal, which means that they are very popular certain seasons. Beyond those seasons, then people don't really need to use that anymore. So something like snowblower, right? It's only popular during the summer. I'm sorry, during the winter, because we need to use the snowblower, right? But during summer or spring or even fall, people couldn't care less about the snowblower, right? And then we have this new technology called the internet, right? Which affect the pricing quite a bit. A lot of people shop online because they know that they could get the products cheaper, right? And I think you all know that quite well. So because there's so many sellers on the internet, they all compete with each other, right? Cutting the price down cheaper than other competitors. So as a consumer, you kind of have a benefit of that. And when you go online, you get to buy things cheaper than when you go offline. And quite often, sometimes you don't really have to pay a tax. And plus, sometimes it's even free shipping. Right. A couple other things I would like to talk about for this chapter is legal or unethical or ethical behaviors when it comes to pricing for the products. These two terms here, bait and switch and loss leader pricing, you may have heard of these terms before. The first one, bait and switch. This is when a company basically lies to our consumers that they have this very low price product in order to get people to come to the store. But when they arrive at the store, they basically tell the consumers that, oh, we don't have that anymore, or it's out of stock. Or then you buy another one that's more expensive. When companies does this bait and switch, they typically just lie up front. They don't really have that discounted products. They just made that up to get people to come to the store. Loss leader pricing though, it's kind of in the same direction, but not exactly the same. This is when the stores put certain products on sale to get people to come to the stores, right? But when people come to those stores, they don't typically just buy the discounted products. They buy other full price products too. So in this case, companies can make up for, the loss or less profit in those discounted products when they sell the full price on products. We see this a lot, like every Sunday, right? When you see all of these flyers from the grocery stores. Another thing that has something to do with price, and you may have heard of this before, is the price surge. Right? If you ever use the service from Uber or Lyft, well, you know that this is like the taxi service, right? Certain days or certain time of the day, they surge the price of the service, and some people think it's not fair that why they have to pay more during certain time of the year or certain time of the month or certain time of the day, right? But you can look at this in a couple different ways. You can look at it from the consumer perspective and also from the business perspective too. So it's pretty much up to you how you're going to look at this scenario. Okay. Lastly, it's legal issues in the B2B kind of setup, business to business. One we call the price fixing, and the other one we call the predatory pricing. The price fixing is when two or more companies kind of talk to each other and decide to increase or keep the price at a certain level to take advantage of consumers. Basically, they try to monopolize the industry or try to use that as the strength to beat their competitors. Right? When they get caught doing something like this, they could get in big trouble. The second one is predatory pricing. Big companies tend to be accused of doing this a lot. For example, like Walmart. And a lot of people think that when Walmart opens somewhere like in a small town, they drive all of the small businesses away because they cannot compete with Walmart when it comes to price. Right. If you could prove that Walmart intentionally reduced the price lower, intentionally to drive the competitors out of the market, then Walmart might be in trouble. However, because it's hard for you to be able to prove that Walmart actually does this intentionally, so it's going to be hard for you to try to sue them or try to get Walmart to court and win the argument. But that's what we call the predatory pricing, is when companies try to drive the competitors out of the market by selling the products much cheaper. Right. So that's pretty much what I would like to talk about the price. So please go back to the book and read more details on it. Finish your discussion and get yourself ready for next chapter. Right. Thank you.